Okay, let's travel back to Victorian England. The year is 1897. I want to tell you about a cruel practical joke that went so wrong that it actually forced the entire legal system to change. This is the story of how one prank created a legal principle that, believe it or not, has some serious power in our world today.
And really, it all boils down to this one powerful question. I mean, we usually think of weapons as physical things, right? But can words, just words alone, cause an injury that's so real, so tangible, that the law has to step in? That is the puzzle right at the heart of this story.
Just try to imagine these words being told to you as a stone-cold fact. This is the lie, the joke that's at the center of everything. It was just meant to get a laugh, you know? But it ended up having consequences that literally no one could have predicted.
All right, so let's meet the people who were right in the middle of this infamous prank. And where did it all start? Well, it all started in a pub, a place for socializing, grabbing a drink. But on this one day, it became the place where a truly terrible idea was born. So, first up, we have our defendant, a Mr. Downton. He was a regular at the local pub, and apparently he was known for being a bit of a prankster. And on this particular day, his target was the landlady, a woman named Mrs. Wilkinson. And here is our plaintiff, Mrs. Wilkinson. Now, when Downton delivered his so-called news, she had absolutely no reason to doubt him, so she believed it instantly. And that belief, it just triggered pure, unadulterated terror. And we're not just talking about her being upset. The harm wasn't just emotional. The shock caused this profound, violent, physical reaction. I mean, we're talking about days of vomiting, weeks of being completely unable to function. The shock was apparently so severe that it's even reported her hair turned white. Think about that. This was a tangible, physical breakdown caused entirely by words.
Okay, so we have obvious, severe harm here, right? But here's the problem. When Mrs. Wilkinson went to the courts for help, the law back in 1897, it just had no category for this kind of injury. It was a genuine legal puzzle.
It's like she fell into this kind of legal black hole. See, to claim assault, there had to be physical contact, or at least the threat of it. Downton never touched her. And to claim something like deceit, she would have had to prove she lost money. But her loss was her health, not her finances. The law, as it stood at the time, just had no answer.
So, this was the exact question the court was facing. Was it really possible that someone could intentionally inflict this kind of suffering with their words and just walk away with no legal consequences at all?
But instead of just throwing the case out, the judge, a man named Mr. Justice Wright, did something really bold. He basically recognized that, hey, just because a wrong doesn't fit neatly into an existing box, that doesn't mean it isn't a wrong. So he decided to forge a new path. And this right here is the core of his groundbreaking idea. He focused on intent. He said, look, Downton willfully told the lie. That lie was calculated, which basically means it was foreseeable that it would cause harm. And crucially, it did cause harm. The judge just drew a direct line from the intentional act straight to the physical result. And this was the truly brilliant move. The judge didn't have to invent a whole new law for emotional harm. No. Instead, he just declared that the violent shock to the nervous system was a physical injury. I mean, think about it. The brain and our nerves, they're part of the body, right? So the harm done to them was just as real as a broken bone. And with that one ruling, a case about a single cruel joke suddenly became something way bigger. It wasn't just about Downton and Wilkinson anymore. It was about creating an entirely new legal principle. This became known as the rule in Wilkinson versus Downton. And what it did was establish a new tort. And a tort is just a fancy legal term for a civil wrong that allows someone to sue for harm that was inflicted on them intentionally, even when it's done indirectly, through words. So this case gave us a really clear three-part test. It's pretty simple. First, there has to be a deliberate act. That's the conduct. Second, there has to be intent, meaning the act was calculated to cause harm. And third, it has to have actually resulted in real harm. That's the consequence. So you've got conduct, intent, and consequence. Okay, so you might be thinking, a 125-year-old case about a verbal lie? That sounds like ancient history, right? But the principle it established casts a really long shadow, one that reaches right into our digital age today. You see, as our understanding of health evolved, so did the rule. What started out as nervous shock back in 1897, well, that was later expanded to cover recognized psychiatric illnesses. And today, courts are still looking at how this very principle might apply to all sorts of new harms. Just think about the modern equivalents for a second.
a vicious online rumor that's engineered to destroy someone's reputation, or a relentless cyberbullying campaign designed specifically to cause severe distress. These are the new ways people inflict harm indirectly, through words and images online.
So let's ask the question, could this really old principle actually be a weapon against modern cruelty? Let's try applying that three-part test. Is there a willful act? Yep, posting the rumor. Is it calculated to cause harm? You bet it is. And does it cause actual, recognized harm? Well, we know from countless tragic stories that it absolutely can.
And this really shows the beauty of how common law works. It's not static, it grows and it adapts. A foundational principle born from a cruel joke in a pub can evolve. A rule that was made for a face-to-face lie can find a whole new life protecting people in the digital world, even though, that world brings its own massive challenges, like anonymity and scale.
Which kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our world, a world of viral challenges, online harassment, and digital pranks that have devastating real-world consequences, is this 19th century idea, the idea that you are responsible for the harm you intentionally cause, even if it's just with your words, is that idea more important now than it has ever been before?